All right, look, here's the deal, guys. It's time, baby. It's time. I got to use my skills here. I used to be a tour guide, a certified New York City tour guide. I have to show you guys around something. It's tour time, baby. Let's do it. Ah, look at that. Ah.
I am your tour guide. Going on a tour today.
Hey. Oh, okay. Dabbing rat. All right, so today we're going to do a quick little tour. I'm going to tell you guys about a little neighborhood known as the East Village. Huh? Yeah, the gritty East Village. That's right. That's right. We're going to talk about the East Village. This is a very interesting neighborhood. I used to live there for a little bit, got priced out, unfortunately. A little expensive. Just so you get an idea how expensive New York's gotten, I live in Queens. I live a 5-minute walk from the closest subway with another person, which is far from ideal for someone who's 30. Okay, and this is true. I have a friend in my hometown of Tampa who, for what I pay in rent, is paying the mortgage on a 2-bedroom house. That's true. I have another friend in Cusco, Peru, and for what I pay in rent, he's the police commissioner. All right? Yeah, he's doing pretty well. Anyways, the East Village wasn't always fancy, baby. This started out as marshlands. You see this guy here? That's Peter Stuyvesant. You may know his name from Stuyvesant Town, from Stuyvesant all over the city. This was the Director General of New Amsterdam before it came to New York, right? What happened was the British came in, kicked him out, and said, it's New York now, and this guy, all salty, was like, all right, I'm just going to retire to my land, and it was the East Village, a big marshland. You may be walking around on a Sunday morning, and you might think it's still marshland. You step in a little bit of marsh. The East Village and the Lower East Side are the highest concentration of bars in New York City, so you can just use your imagination what you're stepping in. But, it was marshland, right? What happened was his descendants, once the city started to take off, created a nice little place for upper middle class, right? Now, there are two things you got to know about New York here in this point. Early 1800s. 1811, the grid of Manhattan is implemented. That's when the streets are all laid out, right? And the avenues, that's implemented in early 1800s. That caused a big frenzy of development. But also, in 1825, you had the Erie Canal. The Erie Canal, baby. That's one of the things that made New York what it is today. That made New York the principal shipping port in the United States, passing Philadelphia and those freaks over in Boston. That's what made it so cool, right? So then they start developing this area here, actually, St. Mark's Place. And this is one of the houses that's still there. Hamilton Holly House. You guys know where that name comes from? Oh, Alexander Hamilton. This is an actual photo of him. He actually died in a duel, and guess who lived in this house? His poor wife, who told him not to duel. What an idiot, and he still did it. But that house is still there, pretty cool, right? It's number 4 St. Mark's. So anyways, you got this middle class little area, right? But then the mid-1800s hit, and then the Germans come in, baby. One of the reasons they come in is because there are these failed revolutions all over Europe, and one of them takes place in Germany. And a lot of those guys are like, you know what, we should probably leave. We didn't really do too well here. Let's go to New York City. They did, and they settled here in the East Village and called it Klein Deutschland. Huh? That's right, Little Germany, pretty cool. So you can still see signs of that. If you look up, you see this building here, number 12 St. Mark's Place. Look at that, all the German writing there. Deutsche Amerikanische Schützengesellschaft. You got Einigkeit macht stark. Guess what it was? It was a shooting society. And that's exactly what you want to see when you walk around New York, is a building that used to be a shooting gallery covered in German writing. Hey, it's very comforting. But this is still here. And today, it is the complete opposite of a shooting gallery. It is a vegan empanada place. Go figure, baby. It's a nice little ironic twist. All right. We're going to keep moving, baby. This is one of the things that got rid, unfortunately, one of the reasons why the Germans left. You guys don't know about this. You got another thing coming, man. The General Slocum disaster was one of the biggest disasters in New York City history. Terrible. In fact, on a school day in 1906, they hired this ship called the General Slocum to take a bunch of women and children to a picnic, their annual picnic for a church in the East Village, right? Unfortunately, it sank, and over 1,100 women and children died in the East River. That's crazy, right? This happened in 1906, I know. That's pretty dark, so I guess, just look at this dog, I guess. I don't know, that's a pretty funny dog. All right, cool, let's keep it moving. But anyways, that is one of the reasons why the population shifted from Germans to the Jews, man. The Jews came to the East Village. They were the ones who populated, made it cool, and in fact, they settled 2nd Avenue and it was called the Yiddish Rialto because of all the theaters. There was a Yiddish theater, a vibrant art scene. These are all theaters that are still left from that time that are still there today. Huh? Pretty cool. And in fact, if you go to the Chase Bank there, it used to be the 2nd Avenue Deli, there's actually a little walk of fame. Huh? Where you can see all the famous, famous stars of the Yiddish theater scene, like Moishe Oisher and Abraham Goldfat, and you know all the names, of course. But they're all there. So the Jews came in the early 1900s, they settled, and they became kind of this part, and also the Lower East Side, very huge, obviously, like almost 2.5 million Jews from the years 1880s to the 1920s, a lot of people. Anyways, it switches again, and the Puerto Ricans come, right? So after World War II, this has coincided actually with the neighborhood going down the toilet, unfortunately, because a lot of manufacturing left the cities. People are leaving the cities. You had white flight, you had suburbs, all this stuff. People are leaving the cities, and guess what happened at the same time? Unfortunately, Puerto Ricans came here looking for jobs, unfortunately. In case you don't know, Puerto Rico was a territory gained by the United States in the Spanish-American War. Oh, you guys ever heard of this thing? Look at that guy, Teddy Roosevelt. What a badass. It happened because this boat sank, the USS Maine sank off the coast of Cuba, and the media and politicians drummed up a lot of support so they could start this war and basically make a killing through property and money. It's a good thing that's never happened again, you know? But it did, and they got Puerto Rico out of it, and it became a commonwealth in the mid-1900s. In the early 1900s, they actually made it easy to travel, but it was after World War II that people really started pouring in, and they kind of hung out in the East Village, and they made it their own. You could still see Casa Adela, you gotta use the accent, okay, you know? And you also have the New Eurekan Poets Cafe. You want a good date spot? Go to the New Eurekan, baby. Go there. Don't go to Dave & Buster's or whatever the hell. Do this. This is cool stuff. They started this because they couldn't get jobs on Broadway and other types of theater, so they said, you know what, screw it. In the early 70s, they started their own thing. So you got to do, and also, you got to know this. Here's a little fact for you. You got to see this on Avenue C. You got to see the Low East Side. The reason this is called that is because in the 1980s, the mayor gave it the name Low East Side because that's how the Puerto Ricans pronounce Lower East Side. Oh, Tom, you're incredible. My God. Don't pretend like you're not going to use that fact the next time you walk by that sign. And, you know, the moral of that story is that they did make a street sign based on making fun of people's accents. That's pretty messed up. But anyways, here's what happens. You have a neighborhood that's completely in the can, right? So it's broke, it's cheap to live in, but it's well located. Here's a question. What kind of person does that attract? Artists, baby. Bring in the artists. That's exactly what happens. The artists come. They make it their own. People like Keith Haring, people like Jean-Michel Basquiat. You have people like the Ramones, all these people hanging out in this neighborhood, making it cool. They're doing cool things. They're drinking beer. They're probably doing the equivalent of vaping, you know? Really cool stuff. They start their own stuff, like Club 57. The building is there. They have a little plaque there. This was actually like a place where they would do their DIY shows, and you know, they would do great bits like the head in the TV bit. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen that bit. It's a killer bit. But you got Keith Haring there, all these other artists, and they would do there, and they just use it as their playground. It's amazing, right? So you had also, too, around that time, the neighborhood started to change because once the artists come in, other people start coming in. They want a little piece of it. And then you have the Tompkins Square riot in 1988. All of my, I guess, knowledge of this is secondhand because in 1988, I was still 10 years away from being born. So this is all, I read this, so take that with a grain of salt. This happened in Tompkins Square. The police were trying to crack down on the people who hung out in the park, and it became a huge riot. Long story short. Anyways, after a little while, the artists are there. It's great. So then what happens? Bye-bye. Get out of here, baby. Go get a real job. We'll take it from here. So then it becomes a much more expensive neighborhood. This is actually the CBGB, right? Became John Barbados. Where you used to go to watch the Ramones and Blondie, you go to this place and pay $200 for a t-shirt, huh? This is not John Barbados, I can promise you that. Anyways, it's very expensive. This is actually the most expensive apartment in East Village, $25 million. Yeah, no, not too bad. It's actually in a building that's next to a parking lot that's next to a senior center. For $25 million, those seniors better be working in your apartment. Good Lord, man, that's a lot of money to pay. Anyways, I'm going to bring up your next comic now. That was the East Village, guys. I think, you know, we whizzed through it. You got a little bit of a basic kind of like tour. That's not bad, right? Huh? Yeah, look. I'm cramming as much in as I can, baby. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about more, all that stuff as we go.